Greenhaven Correctional Facility. Counties served. Dutchess. Address: 594 Route 216, Stormville, New York, 125820010. United States. Security Class Maximum. Opened 1949. Aaron Finn was charged in a 3-page federal indictment with deprivation of civil rights under color of law for an incident alleged to have occurred on March 19, 2020. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York said in a statement that Finn willfully used excessive force amounting to cruel and unusual punishment against a restrained inmate. Damian Williams, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, said Finn allegedly assaulted an inmate whom he was sworn not only to guard, but also to protect. Today's indictment underscores that incarceration should not result in undue loss of human dignity. Unfair and illegal abuses to those serving their debt to society cannot, and will not, be tolerated by this office. Finn began working for the department on February 12, 2012, and at Greenhaven on February 18, 2013. He resigned on February 22, 2021, and was earning an annual salary of $66,049. Greenhaven Correctional Facility. A 36-year-old inmate convicted for predatory sexual assault and serving a 20 years to life sentence attacked and assaulted a female doctor at the maximum security Greenhaven Correctional Facility in Stormville. On Monday, April 19, 2 officers heard screams from a stairwell in one of the facility buildings. Both officers responded to the stairwell and found an inmate standing over one of the prison's medical staff. The officers ordered the inmate to move to the wall as he stood over the woman, who was sitting on the top step. The inmate refused and the officers immediately used force to get him to the wall and into handcuffs. The victim was immediately brought to the facility infirmary and treated for redness to her face, lips, cheeks, and nose. She was transported to an outside hospital for further treatment. Investigation of the attack determined the inmate saw the victim in the stairwell and approached her. He proceeded to throw her into the wall and punched her several times in the face before the officers heard her scream and responded to her aid. The inmate was convicted in Schenectady County in 2008. At the time of his arrest, he was on parole for attacking another woman 2 years earlier. There is no doubt in my mind that if not for the alert actions of the 2 officers, the outcome of this attack would have been much worse. This inmate, who in 2008 viciously attacked and raped a woman in a parking garage and had previously attacked another woman in 2006, would have continued his assault of the doctor inside the stairwell if the officers had not responded, said Union Regional President Chris Morrow. Already serving a 20 years to life sentence, this is exactly the reason why having a disciplinary system that holds inmates accountable for their actions is needed, not something hastily passed into law without any consideration for staff safety. Greenhaven correctional officer did not return to duty after she was attacked by a visitor on Friday. According to a press release from the New York State Correctional Officers and Police Benevolent Association, which said the visitor became agitated waiting to be released from the prison around 1:50 p.m. The unnamed officer was treated by facility medical staff and transported to a local hospital for further treatment. She suffered swelling to the face and jaw, a laceration to her thumb, pain to her right ear, right hip, and knee. The union said the visitor's name was also withheld. The union states that he banged on the door that separates the lobby and visiting room. When the officer opened the door to address him, he punched her in an attempt to get through the door. She then tried to close the door, but he grabbed her and punched her in the face. Officer was able to help her close the door. Staff then restrained the visitor in the visiting room while state police was called to the facility. State police said because the man faces a harassment violation, they will not release his name. The investigation is ongoing. Mid-Hudson Region Vice President said in a statement that members are attacked by inmates daily. We don't expect that visitors, who are supposed to be law-abiding citizens, would attack staff as well, Mazzella said. The state of New York needs to do more to protect law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line every day by having penalties that are more than simply a slap on the wrist. Contraband recovered during search at Greenhaven Correctional Facility. Stormville, members of the Corrections Emergency Response Team conducted a random search of inmates and their cells at the maximum security Greenhaven Correctional Facility in Stormville last week and recovered makeshift weapons and plastic handcuff keys. The search was conducted in the early morning hours on Friday, January 29. During the search, an officer observed an inmate place something in his waistband. The inmate was frisked and officers recovered 2 plastic handcuff keys that were inside a plastic capsule that fell from the inmate's shorts during the frisk. The keys were seized as evidence. The 33-year-old inmate is serving a 34-year to life sentence on an attempted murder conviction in Queens County for firing 8 shots at 2 NYPD officers, was transferred to Great Meadow Correctional Facility following the contraband seizure. The remaining search last week recovered an ice pick-type weapon, a flat metal shank, and 4 gallons of homemade alcohol in 2 other cells. Both inmates assigned to those cells were placed in a special housing unit pending disciplinary charges. SIR teams throughout the state have been, and continue to be, one of the greatest assets this department has when it comes to maintaining the safety and security of New York State Prison, said N.Y.C Mid-Hudson Regional Vice President Chris Morrow. In this instance, Green Haven's SIR team not only recovered multiple deadly weapons, but they also found escape paraphernalia which presents an unimaginable risk not just to the facility, but to the public as well. After a fire was intentionally set inside a cell at the maximum security prison, using state-issued hand sanitizer. On Saturday, May 8, a fire alarm was activated on one of the cell blocks at the prison. Officers observed a fire and smoke coming from an inmate's cell. The officers opened the cell, evacuated the lone occupant, as well as the remaining inmates on the cell block, who were then all moved to the recreation yard while staff battled the heavy smoke condition. Ultimately, staff were able to extinguish the fire, followed by ventilating the cell block until the smoke dissipated. The investigation determined the fire was intentionally set, using matches and the state-produced hand sanitizer, N.Y.C Clean. The inmates' belongings inside the cell sustained minor damage. 3 officers sustained smoke-related injuries and were transferred to Vassar Brothers Medical Center for medical care. The inmate, whose cell the fire was intentionally started in, sustained burns to his forehead and face. He was treated by facility medical staff. The investigation, which is ongoing, has not determined who set the fire. Also during the incident, 2 inmates began fighting in the yard. They were given orders to stop, and while one inmate complied, the second inmate continued to be combative and officers needed to use body holds to force him to the ground. Once on the ground, the inmate complied. Both inmates were removed from the yard and faced disciplinary charges. During the struggle, one officer sustained minor injuries to his wrist and ankle. He remained on duty. We are seeing a disturbing trend in our facilities where inmates are using the state-produced N.Y.C Clean hand sanitizer as an accelerant. Smith, convicted of murdering 83-year-old Kenosa Lake woman, has died in prison May 10, 2022. Comstock, Toby Smith, 48, serving a life sentence in prison for the murder of 83-year-old Lorraine Gempler, has died in prison.